Unidome on the campus of the University of Northern Iowa. A 66-64 thriller, won on the last-second shot by Eddie Bryant. Scott Plonke makes that basket and makes it now a 6-4 ball game in favor of the Panthers. A steal by Lamont Robinson. 3-on-3. Fast break. Kryenbrink lost control of it, but the Panthers maintain the basketball. Plonke underneath, and that's somebody they're going to have to stop.
Well, this is natural.
The Mouse puts it up and gets the foul to boot.
As I was going to say, it's natural for a team that has nothing to lose to come out and put on a great run early. I think the Mouse's shot right here may put an end to it. Here you see good extension. The foul comes from Robinson, coming from the blind side.
Rob Williams now into the ball game for the Panthers of Northern Iowa. Robbie Williams, a 6-foot senior from Benton, Illinois, shares the time at that guard spot with Lamont Robinson. McFadden makes it a three-point play. He's now 1 for 1 from the free throw line, and it is now 8-7 as Plonke once again goes in unmolested and has 6 points. It's a 10-7 Northern Iowa lead. 17-18 remaining in the first half of action. Bob Crawford getting set to come into the ball game along with Sean Hood for the Vikings. Clinton Ramsey is going to throw one up. No good. Mudd with the rebound. And Mudd improving every game. Now has 4 points as we stop play for the substitution of players. Mudd sits down, Eddie Bryant sits down, Sean Hood and Bob Crawford into the ball game. Randy Kryenbrink with the basketball. Kryenbrink 5 points away from becoming the all-time leading scorer in Northern Iowa history.
They're doing a fine job of breaking the press right now.
Plonke once again. That is 8 points for Scott Plonke. And the Panthers have 12, so Plonke has accounted for 2/3 of their scoring. They have a 3-point lead. The Mouse is going to challenge the big 6'10" sophomore, and he makes it.
Well, the zone that they're playing a 2-3 zone with the big man coming up the middle to block off the inside. That time, the Mouse went all the way to him.
We have a traveling violation on Rob Williams. And that turnover will give the ball back to the Vikings. And we've got a substitution in for Northern Iowa. Lamont Robinson back into the ball game, and Rob Williams will take a break. Or check it, it'll be Nick Nurse sitting down. Clinton Ramsey puts the ball into play, and Sean Hood will bring it across. Hood's going to drive, but before he can get the shot off, the foul was called on Rob Williams. That is Williams first, and the team fourth.
Here, a good head fake by Sean Hood. He went down the middle, strong to the hole.
And he got called for the body check, Williams did. Clinton Ramsey, and his first 2 points. Ramsey, now the 6th all-time leading scorer in Cleveland State history. We get a backcourt violation. There is the story on your screen. 15:48 remaining in the first half of action. The Vikings have just taken the lead 13-12 over Northern Iowa. By way of comparative statistics, Vikings came into the ball game shooting 52.5% from the field. That ranks them among the top 20 in the nation. Northern Iowa shooting 49.7 from the free throw line. Vikings shooting 66.7%, while Northern Iowa beats them in that category with a 70.9 average. Clinton Smith, the leading scorer on the team, puts up his first 2 points of the evening, and it's now a 15-12 Viking lead, and we've got a foul right away on Ken McFadden. That is the first against the Vikings tonight.
I think if Northern Iowa stays in that man-to-man, Clinton Smith's man will not be able to check him.
Rob Williams gets it into Randy Kreinbrink. Long pass down to Greg McDermott. Nick Nurse looking for Plonke on the inside, decides not to throw it in there. Bob Crawford's going to have his hands filled because Plonke outweighs him by about 40 pounds. Randy Kreinbrink falls off the rim, and the Mouse comes out with the rebound, took it right out of McDermott's hands, and he is called for traveling.
That time, I think the Mouse should have stopped at the free throw line. He would have saw Ramsey coming to the left side of him. Plus, those men on the corners, they should be saying left, right, to let him know where they are.
McFadden coming off that 26-point performance against DePaul last Wednesday night, but overall did not have a good road trip. Now he and Rob Williams are getting into a little bit of a shoving match away from the basketball. Underneath it goes to Plonke, right back out to Williams. Nurse, or rather Kreinbrink, falls short. McFadden with the rebound. Pass to Ramsey, and Ramsey cans it. Vikings up by 5, 17-12, with 14.5 remaining in the first half. Plonke all alone again, and Crawford's going to get called for the foul.
Each time you see Crawford try to block a shot underneath, the foul is called, as you will see on the instant replay here. Watch as his hand goes forward. Straight up, but see his hand go forward. Anytime that hand goes forward and you really don't block that shot, you're going to get called for a foul.
Ray Salters, number 34. Paul Stewart, number 30, into the ball game for the Vikings. And in for the Northern Iowa Panthers, Jim McGrath, a 6'9 junior from Ottawa, Illinois. He is number 23. Scott Plonke at the line. He has 10 points in the evening, shooting 69% from the free throw line. And there you see why. He's 1 of 1 tonight, and now has 11 of Northern Iowa's 15 points. Only Greg McDermott has scored. Steve Corbin also into the lineup for the Vikings. Stewart has the ball knocked away, and there's a jump ball call, although Stewart was out of bounds. His foot was out of bounds, so that will give the ball to Northern Iowa. McGrath with the basketball. And Plonke traveled before he could put the ball on the floor.
He saw a little lane there he tried to get to. He needed a running start to beat his defensive man. Got called for the travel.
Steve Corbin to Sean Hood to Bob Crawford. None of the starters are in there now. Sean Hood drives the lane and makes the basket. 2 points for Sean.
We've seen Sean Hood make some incredible shots the past 3 weeks, but he's capable of doing that.
And there's a steal by Hood. And he's going to take it all the way himself. And Sean Hood has brought this crowd to its feet early in the ball game. Vikings up by 6, 21-15 with 13:10 to go. A packed house here at Woodling Gym tonight, as Cleveland has finally discovered the Vikings. Plonke on the turnaround. Didn't get the basket, but he's going to get 2 shots at the line. Crawford once again the guilty party.
Let's watch that hand again. Did he go straight up or did he push his hand forward? Straight up that time. I think that was a good defensive move that time. He didn't go forward. It must have been contact with the body.
Well, from our angle, we really couldn't tell that, but nevertheless, Plonke will be at the line. He is perfect from the line tonight. 1 for 1. He'll have 2 shots this time. Misses on the first attempt. Scott Plonke came into the ball game with a 15.8 point per game average. He is second on the team to Randy Kryenbrink, makes the second, splits the pair. He has 12 points now, 2 for 3 from the line tonight. 12:54 remaining in the first half. Cleveland State up by 5, 21-16 over the Northern Iowa Panthers. An AMQ8 contest. Vikings 2-0 in the conference. Northern Iowa 0-2. And in the midst of a 5-game losing streak, Paul Stewart will make it a 3-point play, or will have a chance to make it a 3-point play.
That was just pure basketball knowledge. You know where he was on the court that time. I think when Stewart turned around to take the shot, as you see as he turns around, he can't really see the hoop. But it's good touch.
Powered it up and in, and Stewart misses the free throw attempt. And it's 23-16. The Vikings leading by 7 over Northern Iowa. Nick Nurse out to Rob Williams. The pass, I think, was intended for Plonke, but fortunately, Nurse came out and saved it. Randy Kryenbrink, now 3 points away from becoming the leading scorer in Northern Iowa history for a career. He came into the ballgame tonight with 1,709 career points. Corbin falls short of the iron. Stewart and Salters fight for the rebound. Stewart comes away with it, and Sean Hood will set up the offense once again. Eric Mudd, nice shot by Mudd.
It's amazing how he works off the glass from that angle. Takes a lot of skill to do that.
And Salters over Randy Kryenbrink's back.
Sometimes you have to give a layup, just give it away. There's no way he could have stopped the points on that, so he should have just let him have the layup.
Now that basket ties Kryenbrink for the all-time scoring lead in Northern Iowa history. This free throw, should he make it, will make him the all-time leading scorer in Northern Iowa history, and I would think they would stop the game for that. I don't know how that works on the foreign court, but I know that when Clinton Ramsey went over 1,000, we did stop the game, so let's see what happens. He misses, so he is only tied Randy Kryenbrink. But I'm sure before the night's over, he'll have another chance at immortality. 25-20, Vikings lead by 5 over Northern Iowa. 11:23 remaining in the first half of action. Stewart off the glass and good.
Watching Northern Iowa there, they put a good first echelon defense up. But once the ball gets inside, they really don't jump with the man or put the hand up. So it's an easy shot after that.
Nick Nurse driving the lane, missing, and Eric Mudd with the rebound. Eddie Bryant now back in the ball game at guard. We missed that substitution for you, and a lot of times we won't give you all the substitutions, as Mudd once again puts up a shot.
As you see, the move is so deliberate and it's so slow. He takes his time, so it's not a rush. He's really in control of himself. So that's why it's so easy to make that shot underneath.
Mudd, 61.4% from the field, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe he is 4 for 4 tonight. And as we mentioned, that field goal percentage makes him number 11 in the nation. If only his free throw percentage were a little better. 61.5 from the free throw line is not good. But I'm sure that's one thing that he will work on over the summer, because Eric Mudd is a hard worker. McDermott all alone.
That was good passing by Northern Iowa that time. Mudd was playing to the front side of the defense, of the offensive man. They swung the ball, trapped him on the outside.
Alley-oop to Clinton Smith, and he puts it in. 4 points for Clinton Smith. Now 31-22 with 10 minutes remaining in the first half. Scramble for the loose ball. Northern Iowa controls it. McGrath 3-on-1 underneath to McDermott. And McDermott now with 8 points at 31-24. Vikings lead by 7. A steal by Randy Kryenbrink. He's going to slow it down. I don't think that the Panthers want to get into a running game with the Vikings because the Vikings have the capability of running them right out of this floor.
I don't think so either. I think they would like to settle the ball down, get good passes, a good wide open jump shot.
Watch the play away from the ball, especially underneath between McDermott and Mudd. They are bouncing off each other like crazy. Nick Nurse puts in that basket, and it's now 31-26. Northern Iowa hanging in there, only trailed by 5 now.
Their offense is geared to where the man who's going to do most of the scoring will be on the backside of that defense. They swing the ball very well.
That was Steve Corbin missing the basket. Northern Iowa with a chance to close to within 3. Just under 9 minutes remaining in the first half. It's been a pretty quick first half, too. Eddie Bryant with the steal. Paul Stewart going to pull up, misses. Clinton Smith has the ball taken away, but there was a whistle and a foul. And I believe that was on Rob Williams.
Northern Iowa foul on number 20, Robbie Williams, his second personal
That's
foul,
his second.
number 7.
Clinton Ramsey and Kenny McFadden, as you see on your screen, coming into the ball game.
Number 10, Ken McFadden.
Lamont Robinson coming in for Northern Iowa. Nick Nurse will take a break.
Robinson.
The Panthers come into the ball game tonight a little bit short-handed. Nate Harris and Kurt Francis, both injured. So they come in with 9, actually 10 players. They brought along one of their walk-ons, and walk-ons normally don't make the road trips. Clinton Smith, good on his first attempt from the free throw line. He'll get another one. He has 5 points tonight. It's now 32-26. The Vikings on top by 6. Smith, a 64.3% shooter from the free throw line, makes good on both of them. And we have an open.
Just look at that alley-oop pass right now. As you see, Clinton Smith pass the ball. The defense is making a shift. A quick burst down the baseline. Good alley-oop pass. Stuff her home. That's the way to do it.
Clinton Smith, perhaps the most explosive player on the Viking staff, as you see Hagar, the Viking mascot, taking a little break on the job.
You know, I used to get that same pass, but you know it was a bounce pass. Never a stuff shot for me.
Well, I don't think I ever saw you that close to the basket. You didn't take anything but 15-footers. Clinton Ramsey on the steal, takes it all the way up himself. Ramsey now with 6 points, just 19 away from becoming the 5th all-time leading scorer in Cleveland State history. In the number 5 position right now, Dave Kyle, who played here at Cleveland State in the years 74 to 77. That'll be a foul on Eric Mudd underneath, and Mudd is whistled for his first personal of the evening.
What Cleveland State has to do, when that ball is swung from one side to the other, that defensive center, whoever he is, must make his adjustment a little quicker. He's getting pinned on the outside. They're trying to get the ball to the middle on the swing pass.
Sometime during the course of the game, if you notice, Bob Crawford is playing with a bandaged index finger on his right hand, jammed it in a car door. Randy Kryenbrink, boom, and Randy Kryenbrink now the all-time leading scorer in Northern Iowa history, and they are going to stop the contest right now.
Randy Kryenbrink has become the all-time leading scorer in Northern Iowa history at 1,714 points.
Great gesture. Randy Kryenbrink will now get the game ball. Congratulations all the way around. And out is coming now his coach, Jim Barry. And I'm sure that's got to be a very touching moment for Barry. He has announced his resignation effective at the end of the season. And this is a kid that's been with him for 4 years of the 13.
Well, he saw Randy grow and mature every year. I think when his freshman year, he was a 12-point scorer. then went to 18, then went to 21. I think this year he's at 22. So each year he saw progress in Randy.
Randy Kreinbrink, the only senior starter on the Northern Iowa squad. Robbie Williams is a senior. He gets to see a lot of playing time, but he doesn't start. Crawford against McDermott, and Crawford has his first 2 points of the night.
Well, Crawford and McDermott are talking to each other. They're having a battle underneath. We can see how that develops.
Well, there's been a lot of pushing and shoving under those boards, and I guess that's the way that the Vikings have to play it when they are outsized underneath. Ken McFadden just got whistled for a foul. Of course, Kenny never believes that he could foul anybody. But we have an official timeout right now. Robbie Williams will be putting the ball in play. And that youngster who may look somewhat disinterested right now, I don't think basketball is his sport. And I think his father is a little bit upset about that. But that is my son, David, sitting next to Dolly Levin, the wife of Merle Levin, the sports information director here at Cleveland State University.
Now I can understand why you're mad. He is tall.
He prefers music to sports. Lamont Robinson for the basket. Vikings now lead 37-30. 6:57 remaining in the first half of action.
I'm sure Coach Berry is satisfied with the slowdown play that Cleveland State is doing now, although he's hoping he get on the defensive boards better.
Vikings winning the battle of the boards. Clinton Ramsey now with 8 points, 39-30, and a steal by Clinton Smith. He puts it up and in. We've got a whistle and a foul underneath.
Yeah, I've noticed tonight we got a lot of reach fouls tonight. Let's look at it. Let's pick up the foul. Good steal here by Smith. You see another reach foul.
His third personal foul.
And Rob Williams now in foul trouble with 3 personal fouls. Scott Plonke back into the ball game for Northern Iowa. Clinton Smith with a chance to make it 3 for 3 from the free throw line. He doesn't. Didn't bend his knees again, as my partner would say. 41-30, Vikings up by 11, 6:26 remaining in the contest. Crawford and Plonke going at it chest to chest. Randy Kreinbrink falls short, and Clinton Ramsey loses the ball out of bounds.
I tell you, you don't want Mr. Brink to get hot. It's just like a Brinks truck. He can fill it up.
However, let me ask you something. I can remember when you were traded to the San Diego Clippers, and you came back, and your name was your number was retired by the Cavs. It was halftime of the game when the Cavaliers were playing San Diego. You were hot as a pistol the first half. The second half, you couldn't hit the broadside of a barn door.
That's true. I think the ceremony lasted a little too long. I cried too much. And tears were in my eyes. I couldn't see the second half.
And I'm just wondering what kind of an effect that's going to have on Randy Kreinbrink. They did pause the contest, and we'll see how much of an effect it has.
Well, although I was on the road at the time, I was on the road at home, so it's a little different. He's on the road away from home, and although the people here appreciate him being a good scorer for Northern Iowa, they want him not to get many tonight.
Nick Nurse at the free throw line. Makes good on the first attempt. He is 1 for 1 there. Nurse only a 40% shooter from the free throw line. Averages 3.5 points a ball game, so he has that average now.
Well, sometimes free throw shooting can be deceiving. If you're a player that really don't go to the line that many times and you miss a number of shots, then your free throw for shooting is going to be really down.
Bob Crawford being sandwiched underneath by Plonke and Kreinbrink. Ramsey, baseline left, good. Clinton Ramsey now with 10 points. Vikings back up by 11, 43-32, 5:24 remaining. Stewart got away with one there. He bumped Kreinbrink. And the Panthers throw it out of bounds. It's going to give the ball back to Cleveland State.
I think this is only the 4th of the 5th turnover by Northern Iowa by that press. So they're handling the press pretty well.
And Sean Hood's going to go to the line as Nick Nurse commits a personal. Coach Jim Barry came off the bench on that one. He couldn't believe it.
Northern Iowa foul on number 25, Nick Nurse. His second personal
It
foul.
seemed to me to be a jump ball.
Well, it was what you call one of those reach fouls again. Instead of playing defense with your feet, he was playing with his hand. Although he may have gotten his hand on top of the basketball, once Sean brought the ball above his head, it had to come down over his elbow and over his hand.
You saw Sean Hood's free throw percentage, nearly 78%. And it's shots like that that fall in that help your average immensely.
Yes, it does. They call that the shooter's touch.
When you're hot, you're hot.
That's right.
He leads the team in free throw percentage, by the way. Doesn't make the second one, though. Robinson has a shot blocked by Bob Crawford. Hood on the fast break. 3-on-2. Look away to Ramsey. No basket. But we're going to get a foul, and I believe that's going to be on... Let's see, is it going to be on Nurse or Sean Hood?
No, it's going to be on Sean this time. This time Sean had a look-away pass, which was a very good pass, but he has to stop. This is what we call it in junior high school, the jump stop at the free throw line. And you see he's continued to move, although that time I thought the defensive man kind of dove in front of him that time.
Well, if you noticed, on the last foul that was called down on this, on the Northern Iowa defensive end on Nick Nurse, Coach Jim Barry jumped off the bench, said something to the official, and I have a feeling that may have influenced them just a tad.
It could be.
Nurse is 3 for 3 from the free throw line. He has 5 points tonight. And he's perfect in 4 attempts. 6 points on the evening. It's 44-34, a 10-point Viking lead. Less than 5 minutes remaining in the first half.
I tell you something that I have noticed, though. This is probably would be the quietest 50-point at halftime that Cleveland State has had all year. Normally they do some exciting things like that to get this crowd pumped up, but it's pretty quiet in here right now.
Outside of the slam on the alley-oop by Clinton Smith, and that shot by Ramsey, you're right. 46-34, Vikings up by 12. We have people sitting all over. Bob Crawford on a nice soft touch. And I think just as you say that, a couple of reminders. First of all, the NCAA convention held recently in New Orleans produced a couple of unprecedented decisions. Proposition 48, which establishes minimum academic standards for incoming freshman athletes, and a drug testing plan to become effective with next year's postseason championships and at football bowl games. Dr. Walter Wagen, president of Cleveland State University, was at that convention. We'll talk to him at halftime about those new rules and what effect, if any, it'll have on the Viking basketball program. That's coming up at halftime. Vikings will be home to Western Illinois on Monday night as they continue their trek through the AMQ8 conference games. And our next televised ball game will be 2 weeks from tonight, February 1st, right here against Valparaiso. Greg McDermott missing. Lamont Robinson with the rebound, puts it up and in.
I think that's the first offensive rebound that they've put back in tonight. So we've done a good job on the defensive rebounding, except for that one occasion.
48-36, Viking lead is 12 as a new crew of subs coming into the ball game. Robinson called for the personal. He now has 3.
I think Robinson paid for that. Not only was he called for the foul, he got elbowed in the top of the head as he came down underneath that shot.
Mudd and Salters now into the ball game for Crawford and Ramsey.
33, Eric Mudd. 34, Tony Salter.
Jim McGrath, the 6'9 junior from Ottawa, Illinois, coming in for Northern Iowa. He'll replace Lamont Robinson. Northern Iowa experiencing some foul problems with their guards. Robinson has 3, Williams has 3, and Nick Nurse has 2.
Well, I tell you, they can't afford too many more fouls like that.
McFadden, 2 for 2 from the free throw line. He now has 6 points. And he misses on the second one. Stewart almost had the rebound. Kryenbrink saves it for Northern Iowa. 49-36, 3.5 minutes remaining in the first half. Kryenbrink driving the baseline, will get the basket and a foul as Ray Salters is the guilty party.
Good swing to Mr. Brink. Caught Salters off guard. He was right into it. Watch the hang time here. Good hang time. He absorbed the contact from Salters, made the bucket.
That's what's made him the all-time leading scorer in UNI history. Randy Kryenbrink with a 21.4 points per game average coming into tonight's ball game. That is 27th best in the nation. He's now 1 for 2 from the free throw line and has 9 points. And the Northern Iowa Panthers down by 10, 49-39. I look at that score, and I remember last year's game up in Northern Iowa. It was only a 66-64 ball game. Of course, the game here at Woodling Gym the second time around last year was a different story. Cleveland State won 79-63. But I think we're going to surpass both those totals tonight.
I think what they're doing now is trying to overload one side, get a cutter going down the middle. That time it was Stewart.
And Eric Mudd got caught a little bit off guard on that rebound.
You see, you can beat that zone 2 ways. You can beat behind the zone the way Clinton Smith did for the dunk, or you can send somebody in front of the back line the way Stewart just got a shot off a few seconds ago.
I don't know what that whistle was for, because Cleveland State had the ball anyway, but nevertheless, Dave Belter called something and gave the ball back to Cleveland State. But I think the Northern Iowa Panthers are just glad that it wasn't a foul. Kicking violation will give the ball to the Vikings once again. 2 minutes, 11 seconds remaining in the first half of action. Vikings playing before a full house. Winners of 4 games in a row, 3 of them on the road. They beat Illinois Chicago on Monday night, 101-77. And of course, nobody remembers that game. The one they remember most, 90-75 over DePaul on Wednesday night. And I don't think that in the 20 years that Cleveland State University has been a university that they have gotten as much publicity as they have in the last 3 days.
I doubt it, but they deserve it though.
That's very deservedly so. Talking to Plain Dealer sports writer Bill Nichols, though, the one thing that he fears, it's going to destroy all the intimacy that we have developed. Whistle underneath.
Eddie Bryant, a good pass. That time Mudd took the ball to the floor. I think he should have been anticipating a pass and taking it right to the hole without the dribble.
And Eric Mudd will be at the line for his second attempt of the evening. And he is now 1 for 2. You saw the graphic that he is 11th in the nation in field goal percentage. Leads the club in rebounding as well. Corbin finally battles away the rebound.
Now I think what we have to do is hit a couple shots from the outside. Ramsey early hit a couple shots from the outside and kind of opened it up. You see how they are packed in now. So what he's going to do, he's going to make them come out, make them play some defense.
Well, Kevin likes to play the spread offense. Clinton Smith. And Clinton Smith now has 10 points. It's 52-39, a minute to go in the half. Quanke on the turnaround, falls short. Mudd coming down with the rebound, has it stolen by McGrath, but tips it back to Eric Mudd. Alley-oop and broken up by McDermott, and he's called for the foul.
It was almost there. That would have brought the house down. Let's look at it again. You have to have a good passer to even try something like this. Looked like he was going to try a backwards dunk that time. That would have really brought the house down.
Good defensive play by Greg McDermott. And unfortunately, all he has to show for it is a foul.
Northern Iowa substitution, number 44,
Jay Hendercott now into the ball game. Hendercott, a 6'9" senior from Bettendorf, Iowa, has only played in 5 games this year. Clinton Smith falling short once again. He is 2 for 4 from the free throw line tonight. Northern Iowa looking for the last shot. They trail by 13. I'll tell you, I would hate to be Eric Mudd or Bob Crawford tonight because they are really paying their dues underneath.
Well, it's going to get that way from now on. Because if you look at this whole team as a whole, probably the weakest spot, and I'm not putting anything bad on these two guys, may be the hold. Because they have to have good games every night.
And I thought the World Championship Wrestling match wasn't until tomorrow night. Nick Nurse travels with the basketball, and with 2 seconds left, the Vikings will get the ball back, a chance to throw up a 90-footer to end the half. Clinton Smith to Eddie Bryant. Bryant throws it up, and it doesn't go. That is halftime now at Woodland Gym. The Vikings up by 13, 52-39. We'll be back right after this.
Tom Adams, bachelor, engaged bachelor. I own part of this condo and all of this sound system, which will knock the polka dots off your tie, plus an ancient pickup truck that won't. My life is buttons. Love those little beeps. They mean electricity's doing things for me, things I can't do for myself or won't do for myself. Adams machine here. Kitchen skills are limited to thawing and opening. I need that woman. Buttons sure help, especially this one. I set it where I like it and I forget it. The electric heat pump, a simple way to keep the place cool in summer and warm in winter for about the same cost as gas. And now for my big close opening. Ta-da! And here's the person who's taking over half the buttons next month. Beep.
It is 52-39 here at halftime. The Vikings on top by 12 points. My math isn't that good, but bingo. Everybody feared a letdown after a big victory over DePaul. The Vikings showing no sign of a letdown tonight.
Well, it's a letdown for what they're doing now. They're playing good, sound basketball. They haven't made too many steals off the press, maybe about 3 or 4, but they still have 52 points. That means they're doing something right. I think they handled the pressure well of coming down and playing good half-court basketball. They had good shooting from everyone that played tonight. The defense on Brink on the other end was real good. So that's why they have 52 points, and it's not that hard for them to get, seem like.
Now, the second half, obviously, they have to do more of the same.
Well, they do. We want it to be more exciting. Sure, we like to see the steals and the stuff shots, but still, they have to play teams where they have to play good, sound basketball, and so far, they're doing it.
And this is a team, as you mentioned, underneath Quanke and McDermott, much bigger than our guys, but of course we handled much bigger guys against DePaul and actually bigger and quicker guys. So do you expect much of a problem there?
Well, not really. I think the first 2 games that we played, and it was a learning lesson from us playing Ohio State and Michigan with all that size. Now we know how to box out. We got to make contact with those guys a little farther out on the floor to keep them from getting underneath with us and out jumping us.
Okay, we're going to take a break right now. When we come back, we'll be talking to Cleveland State University President Dr. Walter Wagen about the goings-on at the NCAA convention this past week. Stay tuned.
Introducing the Motor Cars Group, Cleveland's international car specialist, where you can get 4 on the floor from Motor Cars Porsche and Audi, a pickup truck from Motor Cars Toyota Volvo, or something for rapid transportation from Motor Cars Honda. The Motor Cars Group, where we let the good times roll in Hondas, Toyotas, Volvos, Porsches, and Audis.
There's never been a crisp like this. It's crispy, crispy, wheats and raisins.
Taste the delicious honey-touched raisin cereal with the crispiest, crunchiest flakes around.
There's never been a crisp like this. It's crispy, wheats and raisins.
The NCAA convention held recently in New Orleans produced a couple of unprecedented decisions. Proposition 48, which establishes a minimum academic standard for incoming freshman athletes, and a drug testing plan to become effective with next year's postseason championships and at football bowl games. Dr. Walter Wagen, president of Cleveland State University, is with us here at halftime. And Dr. Wagen, as it reads now in its amended form, what are the minimum requirements for incoming freshman athletes under Proposition 48?
Proposition 48, as it's now been passed by the NCAA general body, would indicate that there's going to be an indexing as a way of reaching in 3 years the minimum standards where a student athlete must have a 700 score on the SAT and a minimum of 2.0 grade point average in high school. But that's 3 years in the distance. The first year, what's going to be required is that the indexing will say that if you have as low as a 1.8 high school average, then you must compensate by having a 740 score on the SAT. And conversely, it says, if you have as low as a 660 score on the SAT, then you must compensate by having a correspondingly higher grade point average in high school, namely 2.2. And from there, in a 3-year period, it will be phased higher each year.
What implications does that have for Cleveland State University and its basketball program in particular?
I can't honestly answer that in terms of individuals. I think that it's going to have a minimal impact on us. And I say that because given the fact that many of our students who are recruited for basketball are from Ohio, or they are from the Boston area and have been in recent years, in both of those areas there has been a strengthening of the high school programs. And I think there's going to be minimal impact for us.
Now, the predominantly black schools have vowed to fight the ruling, claiming that it's discriminatory. Do you feel those allegations have any merit?
There may be some merit. Some of the people that I know who are presidents of the black institutions, of course, indicate that the SAT score and the ACT, and either of those may be used, do have some discriminatory capabilities inherent in them. I think that that is going to disappear again as the high school core curriculum becomes more and more solid, because the better experience one has had, the better program one's had in high school, the better you're going to do an SAT test. Personally, I think there was no other way to go. And I say that because when one realizes that on the SAT, the highest score you can get is 1,600, and the lowest you can get is 400, 700 is not a high score. And for a person any person who's going to college, not to be able to score 700, to me says that they are going to experience academic trouble. And that was the whole point of this.
The other high-profile decision was the issue of mandatory drug testing. How effective a deterrent do you feel it'll be?
Well, I think it's going to be an initial deterrent. The legislation that was passed is it's going to have a minimal impact initially, and what it does is simply say that for any postseason bowl game in football or for any NCAA championship, whether it's in baseball, basketball, soccer, or whatever, there will be mandatory drug testing. So that is not extensive. The legislation did some other things. It will create guidelines for individual universities to establish so that they can begin their own drug testing program should they wish. It will also indicate that athletes who are to be tested at the championships will, if they violate the drug law, will be automatically suspended for 90 days from any competition. And it will serve as a deterrent to coaches and any other people in the university who knowingly do not reveal when a student is taking drugs.
And Doctor, we can't end this interview without getting your reaction to that landmark victory that Cleveland State scored in Chicago the other night over DePaul.
Oh, I'm just absolutely, ecstatic about it, even though I'm not surprised, frankly. And I don't think anyone in this campus is surprised that we did it, but they're very happy about it because I think everyone felt we had the potential to do it. I am very pleased with the progress that our basketball team has made. It has always been part of the strategy or planning of the Board of Trustees to highlight basketball as the preeminent sport at Cleveland State University for a number of reasons. It gives high visibility to an institution. When that happens, it means that it's good for the academic program. You can attract better faculty members. You can attract more funding. I think the Convocation Center is going to be the next logical step as we build each year to larger and larger crowds. So everything seems to be falling in place.
Dr. Wajan, thank you very much.
You're watching WCLQ, TV 61 in Cleveland.
Back once again here at halftime, 52-39, Vikings on top over Northern Iowa. And Bingo, I think you have a very interesting figure right there as far as the attendance is concerned tonight.
Well, we got 3,252 standing room only in the gym tonight, which is a good sign for Cleveland State basketball for the future. That means we may be getting a Dome Stadium sometime, hopefully.
Well, the Convocation Center is on schedule for either 1979 or 1980, as you heard Dr. Walter Wajan mentioning. That is the next logical step in the progress of Cleveland State basketball. Let's take a look right now at the halftime statistics. First of all, team-wise, the Vikings are shooting 71% from the field as opposed to Northern Iowa's 69%, but you see the difference in the number of shots attempted, and that is where the difference lies. Vikings not doing too well from the free throw line, only shooting 43%, while Northern Iowa is shooting 77%. That was one concern that Kevin Mackey had against Illinois Chicago, where they made 21 of 41, even though they scored 101 points. Rebounds, Northern Iowa surprisingly has the lead, but I think most of our rebounds have been on the offensive board, and that's been a difference. And there you see another key, turnovers. The Northern Iowa Panthers committing 13, while Cleveland State has only committed 6. Individually, the scoring leaders, Clinton Ramsey with 12, Clinton Smith with 10, Eric Mudd with 9, Ken McFadden with 6, Sean Hood with 5, Bob Crawford and Paul Stewart both have 4. Eddie Bryant has 2 to round out the scoring for CSU. For Northern Iowa, Scott Plonke leading the way with 12. Randy Kryenbrink, 9. The first 5 made him the all-time leading scorer in Northern Iowa history. Greg McDermott with 8, Nick Nurse with 6, and Lamont Robinson with 4. More importantly, Lamont Robinson has 3 personal fouls, along with Rob Williams, who hasn't scored but also has 3, and they've got to watch that they don't get any more of those guards guards in foul trouble.
Well, if they do, they're in big trouble because they're the only guards they have tonight that's here with them. So if we can just play good, sound basketball, don't worry about the 100 points, don't worry about getting over the 100 points. It'll come naturally the way these guys play anyhow. They just play good, sound offense and defense. Early in the game, Northern Iowa was penetrating our whole court press by passing the ball up the sidelines. So what we did, we made an adjustment and cut the sideline pass off, and it started working.
Okay, we've got 20 more exciting minutes of basketball to go here at Woodling Gym. The Vikings on top 52-39 over Northern Iowa. We'll get the second half underway when we come back. Stay with us. Remind you of a couple of upcoming events pertaining to the Cleveland State Vikings. There will be a benefit celebration for CSU basketball tomorrow night at Peabody's Down Under in the Flats. That's 1059 Old River Road. And that'll be Sunday, January 19th, 7 p.m. to midnight. You can meet the Vikings, Coach Kevin Mackey, and John Bagley of the Cavaliers, who will also be there. Bagley, of course, recruited by Coach Kevin Mackey when he played at Boston College. $5 admission, $3 for students. There will be contests, Nerf basketball, and prizes by Puma. And you can dance reggae music with First Light. So that's tomorrow night, a benefit celebration for the Cleveland State basketball Vikings. And this was scheduled long before that victory over DePaul, but the timing couldn't have been better.
Couldn't have been.
That's right. Tomorrow night at the Old River, the Peabody's Down Under on Old River Road in the Flats. Also, another upcoming event, the Cleveland State Athletic Alumni Association will be having their induction of their Hall of Fame induction ceremonies, I should say. That'll be Sunday, February 9th at the Cleveland Center on 30th and Chester. That will be $15 per person. It begins at 5 o'clock with a cash bar. Dinner will be at 6. And, of course, the induction ceremonies will take place immediately thereafter. So you can make your reservations today by writing and making a check payable to the CSU Alumni Association, 2605 Euclid Avenue, University Hall 302. That's Cleveland 44115. And the reservation deadline is January 31st. So you can call the alumni office at 687-2078 for additional information on the 12th annual CSU Athletic Hall of Fame induction ceremonies. A couple of events coming up. If you are a supporter of Cleveland State basketball, we urge you to attend both those events if possible. We're a little bit late getting started in our second half because at halftime here they had a Pepsi hot shot shooting contest. And the winners, I guess, will be going on to further competition, and I'm not totally sure on just where the next competition is, but we saw quite a few little shooters out here this afternoon.
I tell you, Coach Mackey would be well advised to look at some of these guys. They can really put the ball on the floor and put it in the hoop. Some good young shooters here in this city, good players. We got good coaches now that's teaching them the fundamental of basketball.
Second half just about to get underway. Speaking of shooting, Vikings, of course, leading the nation, 96.8. That was as of last Wednesday when the statistics came out. Their average has fallen a little bit. They're now about a half point less, 96.3. But as far as I know, based on whatever North Carolina did today, I think they beat Duke 95-92, so I would think that their average is probably still only good enough for second. Those are the winners of your hot shot shooting contest, being presented their awards by Coach Kevin Mackey.
You may think those are certificates, those are scholarships. He's smart, man. He knows how to get him here. He's getting them scholarships right now.
Nothing like early letters of intent. Panthers put the ball into play to begin the second half, and let's check the lineups for you. We have Randy Kryenbrink, Lamont Robinson, and Nick Nurse, along with Scott Plonke and Greg McDermott. That is the original starting lineup for the Panthers. The Vikings, of course, go with McFadden and Bryant at the guards as Kryenbrink puts up 2, and he now has 11 points. Eric Mudd will be at center for the Vikings. Clinton Ramsey and Clinton Smith at the forward spots.
Kreinbrink that time came off a baseline pick. So what they're doing, they're sending him to the baseline and going to send someone down to get him free coming off the baseline.
Kreinbrink has been playing the forward spot because of the injuries that have decimated the Panther squad. He is actually a guard. And nice steal by Eddie Bryant. And he's going to take it all the way and in. Eddie Bryant has now 4 points, and he puts the Vikings back up by 13, the lead they had at halftime. 54.
That time,
Go ahead.
Northern Iowa, that time Robinson kind of dictated and showed everyone where he was going to pass that ball. That's how Eddie Bryant got there to steal it.
Fast Eddie. And Ken McFadden coming down with the rebound. We've got a 4-on-2 fast break. McFadden's going to stop, pulls up, misses the basket, but he gets fouled. Kreinbrink with his first of the ball game and the first of the second half.
Good things happened on this play, but I think he should have passed the basketball right there. You have to know where the players are on the court. That time we got lucky and he got a foul called out of it, but I think he should have gave the ball up.
Saw both Ramsey and Smith over there wide open. I bet they had enough time to talk to each other. Which one of us is going to take it, you or me?
Maybe that was the reason
forget
I
it.
didn't give it to them. They couldn't make their mind up.
McFadden missing from the free throw line.
So now you see how that hurts you. Although you got the foul, you missed the free throw. If it had been an easier pass, we probably had a sure 2 points.
He makes good on the second attempt. He now has 7 points. He's 3 of 5 from the line tonight. It's 55-41. Vikings up by 14.
As you see, that time the pass was made up the sideline. That's how they're beating our press. I think we have to cut that off again like we did the latter part of the first half.
Clinton Ramsey slapped the ball away from McDermott there. Almost came close to fouling. Plonke alone. And Scott Plonke now has 14 points. Cuts the lead down to 12. 18:03 remaining in this ball game. Ken McFadden threw up a prayer.
Well, sometimes if you got the right idea, those things will happen. The idea was right. That's why it went in.
You know, Kenny did not have a good game last Saturday night in our televised ball game against Wisconsin Green Bay. And laughingly, he came up to me after the ball game and said, boy, they really had the scouting report on me, didn't they? Kreinbrink from long range.
I think we have to make Randy put the ball on the floor and go to the hoop. That jump shot is just like Jerry West, sweet as apple pie.
Clinton Ramsey, Eric Mudd on the rebound. And we have seen Eric Mudd do that so often over the course of the last couple games that we have televised, and he's been doing it in the games we haven't televised as well. Kreinbrink has it slapped away by Ramsey, and the Vikings come away with the rebound. Eddie Bryant underneath the Smith, and Smith misses the shot, but he's fouled by Plonke.
That was a very good pass by Eddie Bryant that time. He had 3 people that he could have passed to. Let's look at it. You see, he picked the guy who he wanted to give it to, closest one to the hoop, was Smith. Didn't go up strong as I think he should have. He should have been anticipating that pass to explode to the hoop. But he got a foul. Let's see if it works out for us.
Eddie Bryant, the team leader in assists. He has 66 coming into this ball game. And I'm sure that he's got to be a little upset right now with Clinton Smith because he could have had another one.
Well, as I mentioned about 3 or 4 games ago, Coach Mackey has 2 guys who he really can depend on. On the fast break transition, I think Eddie Bryant is probably the better guard of passing the ball on the fast break. But in a half-court situation, then you got a guy like Sean Hood who can penetrate. So he has 2 rolled into 1, as you can say.
You can see the look of disgust on Clinton Smith's face. He got called for a foul there, and he didn't think he committed a foul. It is 61-45. Vikings up by 16, 16-42 remaining in the contest. Kreinbrink again. No good, and Eric Mudd coming down with the rebound. Mudd had 12 rebounds versus DePaul, 17 versus Illinois Chicago on Monday night. Has firmly taken over the lead in rebounding on the team with an even 8-point average. Clinton Smith called for the traveling violation.
Clinton that time wanted to go to the baseline. They cut that off. He changed his pivot foot and went to the middle. Thought he could get away with it, but the referee called it.
Panthers have the ball. They trail by 16, 16-13 remaining in the ball game, and that'll clearly be a foul on Ken McFadden. I saw that from here.
But you notice the expression, I didn't touch him at all.
Just like when you visit the county jail, none of the criminals in there are guilty. I didn't do it, it was the other guy.
I'm really impressed with Kreinbrink, how he plays the floor. He knows the spots on the floor where he's going to get his shot, and he works to do them. Good pass that time.
McDermott now with 10 points, 61-47. Vikings lead by 14. You know, talking about Eric Mudd for such a long time, he and Bob Crawford were neck and neck in rebounds. Clinton Smith now with 14. Mudd has pulled away considerably. He has 112 coming into tonight's ball game, while Crawford has 87 for second place. It looks like they're holding a basketball players convention in front of the scorer's bench here as McDermott drives, and he's going to make it. He makes the basket and will also be at the free throw line.
That was a good move by McDermott, a good spin move. You see the spin move here, good head and shoulder fake, spin back to the inside, muscle in, good hang time, play to glass. When you get in there, there's a crowd around you, let's play the glass.
Vikings replace 4 players in the lineup. Corbin, Crawford, Stewart, and Hood are in. Only Clinton Ramsey remains from the lineup that started the second half. McDermott now with 13 points. That was his first trip to the line. And we have an official timeout on the floor with 15 minutes and 6 seconds remaining in the contest. The score, Cleveland State 63, Northern Iowa 50. We'll be back.
Hi, I'm Ed Molyneux. We have 100 front-wheel drive trades on sale for 15 hours only, this Saturday and Sunday, inside the Bargain Barn. Shop inside in comfort during our 2-day front-wheel drive clear-out sale. For $1,900, you can get a front-wheel drive bargain. For a 1985 Escort at $4,600. $8,900 buys a 1985 convertible. Sale in Sunday at 5. Molyneux Ford, Route 58, Amherst.
Yes!
Don't you just hate the holidays? A couple of weeks of partying and you feel like a real blimp. Even your ankles got fat. It's enough to make you want to give up. But that's when you gotta get tough. Get tough.
Scandinavian will toughen you up at last year's rates, and you won't have to pay us anything for 30 days.
When the going gets tough, the tough get going.
They have just announced the attendance here at Woodland Gym as you see some happy faces of Viking fans, and wow, you can't get much more partial than that, right? 3,252, as we told you at halftime, third largest crowd in CSU history. Some more bit of good news. The Viking wrestlers this afternoon defeated Miami of Ohio 51-0. So congratulations to Dick Bonacci and his bunch. Ramsey had the ball taken away, but
that time it would have been out on Cleveland State, but the hustle of Northern Iowa, he just couldn't pick the basketball up, but it was good hustle on his part.
Plonke could not control. Underneath, Ramsey once again. This time he does control it and makes the basket. And now he is within 11 points of becoming the 5th all-time leading scorer in Cleveland State history. And Dave Kyle, who is a freelance photographer, also works for the Sun newspapers, normally is in attendance at some of these home basketball games here at CSU. We don't see him here tonight. McGrath missing, Crawford coming down with the rebound. 14-11 remaining, 65-50, and Ramsey is fouled by, it'll be either Plonke or Kryenbrink. I believe Kryenbrink will be the guilty party. Check it, it's Rob Williams.
Let's see how this foul occurred. I thought it was a reaching foul. That time it was a shooting foul, it seemed like to me.
Well, nevertheless, Rob Williams now has 4 personals, and that is not a very good situation for the Northern Iowa Panthers. Kryenbrink now called for the personal. That is the 4th team foul against the Panthers of Northern Iowa. Ramsey underneath.
Clinton Ramsey that time stole the pass from Corbin for a layup.
I think he figured since Kryenbrink got a chance to be honored tonight, he wants one too. He wants a ceremony. Paul Stewart, the guilty party on that personal.
Here, good passing. To even see the man underneath the bucket, and he was trying to catch the basketball. That's a very good pass. He's a big guy. McGrath is a big guy.
Well, that's Plonke who is going to be at the line. He's 6'10", 240. He is the 2nd leading scorer on the Northern Iowa squad this year, averaging almost 16 points a ball game. With this basket, he will equal his scoring average, and he does.
Now, the next 3 minutes and 51 seconds is going to be very important for the Vikings. This is the time you got to break it off. If you're going to be a good team, a top-rated team, when you get 12-13 down in the last 10 minutes of the game, you got to break it off. You really got to play good, smart basketball. So let's see what happens.
Clinton Smith, by the way, now in the ball game, replaced Ramsey in the lineup. Corbin missing, but Crawford on the rebound. He misses, and Sean Hood's going to save it. Gets it over to Stewart. Good heads-up play by Sean Hood. The little 5'7" junior. We featured him on our CSU close-up last week at halftime. Asked him, what do you say to people who say you're too short? Because I go to bed every night dreaming I can wake up 3 inches taller. Jim McGrath.
You see Stewart going up strong with that rebound. Good hang time. Foul on the wrist.
Very obvious, very obvious. Paul Stewart, a 50% shooter from the free throw line. He's 0 for 1 tonight, and he's 0 for 2 now.
He's shooting a basketball with a little flick on the end. So if it don't go clearly through it and hit the rim, it's going to hit a hard bounce.
Stewart, 4 points on the evening, but can't seem to buy a basket from the free throw line. Randy Kryenbrink stops and pops. And Kryenbrink now with 15 points. 67-54. Vikings on top by 13 with 13 minutes to go. This is going to be one of our faster ball games of the season if it keeps going true to form.
Well, there's not really that many fouls and fouls on turnovers. So the clock is constantly running.
I don't know whether that was a shot by Corbin or an attempt for an alley-oop. Nevertheless, he gets called for a foul on the defensive end.
I think that was an alley-oop pass that fell a little short.
I think got away from him. Actually hit the front of the rim and almost went in. If I'm going to be giving assists, I may as well give them to myself. Kryenbrink. Wow, does he have the touch on that basket?
Well, he has good spin, backspin on the basketball, and he shoots with a very good arc. So when you have backspin, once that ball hit anywhere inside that hoop, it's going to go right through.
You know, defensively, the Northern Iowa Panthers have been holding their own. Right now it is an 11-point lead for the Vikings, and Hood misses underneath. Stewart is fouled by McGrath. And that is now 4 personals on Jim McGrath.
That shot that Sean Hood took that time is a shot that we have to take because it's there and it's open. We got to get someone who can drill 1 or 2 of them, open that middle up, so that we keep guys like Stewart on the boards, we'll be all right.
We've got an official timeout on the floor. 11:59 remaining in the ball game. The score, Cleveland State 67, Northern Iowa 56. We'll be back. You'll enjoy a great day all day tomorrow on TV 61 Sunday Film Festival. At noon, Valerie Bertinelli and Timothy Hutton star in Young Love, First Love. At 2, Sophia Loren and George Papard star in Operation Crossbow. And at 4:30, Fred McMurray stars in Beyond the Bermuda Triangle. 3 great films tomorrow beginning at noon here on TV 61. Paul Stewart finally makes one from the free throw line, and when they give you all these free attempts, bingo, you have to capitalize on them.
That's why they call them free throws.
Stewart now has 5 points. He is 1 of 4, and I'm sure that Kevin Mackey appreciated that timeout because it probably gave him a chance to stress that to Stewart. You've got to take advantage of that opportunity. Vikings up by 13, 69-56. Good pass from Plonke over to McGrath, but he couldn't convert. And the Vikings have the basketball back.
Well, Stewart really hustled down to get there for the layup and made him change his shot and shoot it over the rim.
McFadden doesn't get the basket, but he's going to get to go to the line, and that'll be, I believe, on Nick Nurse. Yes, it is.
Here you see the alley that he went through right there. That was the opening right there. He went as far as he could on the dribble and stopped for the jump shot.
McFadden 3 of 5 from the line. 4 of 6. So the Vikings now up by 14, 70-56. McFadden with 10 points, a chance to make it 11. And he does. Eric Mudd now in the ball game, replacing Bob Crawford. Crawford sits down with 4 points. Mudd comes in with 11. Vikings up by 15, 11.5 minutes remaining in the ball game. We mentioned the Vikings did not shoot well at all from the line against Illinois. Chicago had a chance to go to the line 41 times, only made 21 of them. McGrath misses. Mudd comes away with the rebound. The crowd can't believe it. I can't believe it.
I can't either.
That was called a jump ball. Thank you. There you go. That's our telephone number at Channel 61. 524-6161. I don't know where the guys were with the exchange, but nevertheless, we thank you for that free promo on our own station. Smith missing on the shot. Plonke coming down and taking a couple extra steps before he could get the ball away.
He's telling the official, this is my pivot foot here. He said, yeah, but you moved the other one 2 or 3 times.
Sean Hood will put the ball in play. I would think that they might try an alley-oop there, but they didn't. McFadden off the glass.
Anytime he's at that position, at that angle to the hoop, you can just about count it. His shot is so soft off the glass.
Vikings, some great bank shooters. And of course, Kevin Mackey stresses that. We hear him countless number of times in the huddle. Randy Kryenbrink doesn't need a glass to put that one in.
He has a very good shot.
19 points for the senior from Paulina, Iowa. Holds a record for most points in a season for Northern Iowa. Scored 587 last year. Came into the ball game with 257 tonight. A whistle underneath.
This was a good pass from Sean Hood that time. I don't know how he saw Clinton Smith It was a good pass. The defense was aware of it. They made a good adjustment, but they made a foul also.
Clinton Smith, who's averaging 18.4 points per game, has 16 so far tonight, and he's now 4 for 7 from the line.
You saw him that time. He was moving backwards when he shot that. I've been trying to teach them to stay still and follow through before you move.
Well, he makes good on the second one. He now has 17 points. Ramsey and Bryant now back into the ball game for the Cleveland State Vikings. It is a 74-58 ball game. Vikings up by 16 with 10 minutes exactly remaining in the contest. Vikings on a steal underneath Eric Mudd, nice and easy. He makes it look so effortless. And Northern Iowa wants a timeout with 9:51 remaining to score. Cleveland State 76, Northern Iowa 58.
I mentioned before, Brian was the best passer on the fast break. As you saw, his head was up at all time. He was not watching the basketball. He saw Mudd break in free for the shot.
Another assist for the team leader. He came into the ball game tonight with 66 in the 14 games played thus far. That's an average of about 4.7. Vikings lead 76-58. After tonight, they'll be home to Western Illinois next Monday night. And we have a blocking foul called on, no, check it. That is an offensive foul on Randy Kryenbrink.
No, it's not a foul. It's 10 seconds.
Oh, is that what he called it, 10 seconds?
Yeah.
I apologize then. I was wondering because Ramsey took the fall doing a nice Roddy Piper imitation. Mudd couldn't get to that, Clinton Smith couldn't get to that alley-oop. And the Panthers have the ball back. I wondered about the signal. It sure didn't look like an offensive foul. I haven't seen a 10-second foul called for quite a while, so it was somewhat unfamiliar to me. Eric Mudd getting called for the personal. That is his second. And the Panthers get the ball out of bounds underneath their own basket. 9:16 remaining in the contest. Vikings in action again Monday night against Western Illinois here at Woodling Gym. They're going to be playing somewhat like an NBA schedule. Plonke all alone.
That was a very good pass that time. It was made by a big man.
Plonke with 18 points. A 76-60 ball game. No whistle there, although I feel there should have been one. Plonke was over Clinton Smith's back, but nevertheless, Panthers get the ball back. And I promise I'll stop officiating. Mudd with the rebound. McFadden missing. Ramsey misses the tip. And Nick Nurse comes out with the basketball. Check it, it's Kryenbrink. Down to McGrath. He misses the shot. But underneath we have a whistle and Eric Mudd, disgusted with himself.
That should have been an easy layup. That shows when you got 2 or 3 men coming from the weak side, as you see right here. He had someone coming at him. I thought he traveled, but it got him off balance where he missed. It was about 4 or 5 steps on that. But that's good hustling by Cleveland State. You know, you don't mind fouls like that, especially when you got a 16-point lead.
Bob Crawford replaces Clinton Smith in the lineup. So the Vikings have Mudd and Crawford in there at the same time, which means that Mudd will go to the forward position. Crawford will take over the center. Randy Kryenbrink now has 20 points. As Greg McDermott replaces Jim McGrath in the Northern Iowa lineup. Kryenbrink perfect in both attempts from the line. He now has 21 points. That's his average, 21.4. He's 3 of 4 from the line. It's 76-62. Mudd, good. 15 points for the junior from Benedictine High School. It is now 78-62. .755 remaining in the contest. Boy, Plonke and McDermott go 240 and 220, and I think that 220 is deceptive for McDermott. Nice pass by Williams into Randy Kryenbrink. He doesn't get the shot, but he was fouled, and he will be at the line for a 1-and-1.
Here's the replay of it. They set him up for this. He had the ball before. They had passed it around the horn. This time it came back to him, and the defensive man, Clinton Ramsey, went out on him. He backdoored him.
And Randy Kryenbrink, 82.8 from the free throw line. Misses on that one, and Mudd comes down with the rebound. Vikings with a chance to increase the lead. Eddie Bryant's going to drive. Boy, and he was in there against some tall timber, but nevertheless, he's going to go to the line. Nick Nurse with his 4th personal.
Here you see he have enough presence to know where he's at. He tried the scoop shot and almost went for him.
I thought that foul was going to be on Plotke, but Nurse was called for it. He now has 4. Williams, McGrath, and Nurse all have 4 personal fouls. Eddie Bryant has 5 points, and the Vikings have a 79-62 lead with 7.5 minutes remaining. Bryant perfect.